Welcome back to the show. And today is one of the best days you will have on the show. And I know I say this more than once, but my guest today is special. Think about someone who is able to turn contraction feeling, fear, anger, depression, anxiety, stress, all those feelings that get us and put us in the corner and turn that into a force, a power that is invisible. Like, how can you take all of those feelings you hate and turn it into a superpower? That's Brian Muka. School of Hard Knocks. Lived, breathed all of this stuff. We're going to be talking to Brian from kind of his sweat, his tears, his frustrations, from his dark moments. So hopefully he'll allow to go there. But like we're going to be sharing from his darkest of the darkest moments and how he was able to come from all these feelings that hold us hostage in life and keep us small and keep us from our destiny. And now has somehow turned that into the invisible cord, into that cord which I believe makes you unstoppable. Brian, I don't want to preempt you or get into the bio stuff, but I'm pumped that you're my guest today. Welcome to the show.
I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for having me, Prima.
What is it that needs to be added to what I just said that makes the work you do very clear for the person that is listening?
Uh, I don't know. I'm feeling into you, the audience, and realize I don't know what your experience is, and the best I can do is share my experience and the observation of the last 13 years of studying this experiment with fear. And I tried to hack fear. I understood the biology and the physiology of fear and the amygdala and the ice baths and plant medicine. And I overturned a lot of rocks. And there's things in this journey, like you said, the things that you hate. Maybe that's a good place to start. I hated feeling afraid, like cowardly. Um, and I think deep down, I always wondered if I was a coward. Because like I never really got to prove it in my special operations career in the Navy. I did all the training. I jumped out of airplanes at night. I looked for mines underwater on a rebreather with a handheld sonar. But like I never really did the mission, you know? And last night as I was thinking about time with you and this audience, I was thinking about how like I didn't get to experience that in the Navy. And the lessons loop, I find, until the lesson is learned. And so I got to learn that invincibility. I've been invincible. I just didn't know it. And so the work is all about finding the gift below the gift, like your specific way of addressing discomfort and fear and anger and those things. And I don't know the answer, but I know how to find it for you, with you. So that's the invitation. Let's go on this journey. And as I share my stories, just substitute yours. Those make or break moments, the finest hours of our lives. And I've got some frameworks and some principles to apply. So don't do what I'm saying. Do what works for you. And I think if you are my teacher right now, so I'm looking in your perspective. And I ask you to look through mine for this.
I love that. When I look at Brian, I think, how can you get out of that jail cell of feeling unworthy? How can we empower ourselves to stop looking on the outside for answers that exist within us? When I look at Brian, I think, how can we conquer terror and fear? When I look at Brian, I think, how can we get to crossroads in our lives and make that jump, that decision, that how can we cross the roads in our own path with confidence rather than being intimidated by fear and looking for answers in places they do not exist? Brian, this
So
discussion wouldn't be complete if we didn't dive into your story more. So I want to start there. I want to start in like
Okay,
your real story, how you got to start this work, because that's a thread that we need to hang on as we discuss through the conversation.
cool. Yeah, I'm happy to do that. And I'm going to start at the beginning.
Mm,
Um, when I was 8, actually, when I was 2 weeks old, my dad brought me to the doctor, and the doctor asked, "Are you feeding this kid? He's the same weight he was 2 weeks ago." And my dad said, "I've been feeding him every 4 hours, just like you asked." He goes, "No, no, no. I said at least every 4 hours." And
mm,
so I was hungry. And so these energetic powers turned on, connecting to my mom and dad empathically. So I didn't know that was operating until much, much later in my life. The next vignette is at 8 years old. My dad was a track star. He was really good at the 10K. And he wanted to be a good dad, so I wanted to play baseball. And so my dad and I learned how to play baseball together. This is a man who has a PhD from Temple University. He's worked on satellite programs. Like my dad's kind of a G. And he was also doing neurolinguistic programming before anybody ever heard of it.
wow.
He was doing that in the 80s. He would go and teach on weekends, and I would go with him. And so I say all that to say this. So we're having a catch,
Mm,
and my dad was like getting out of the way of the ball. I was like, "Dad, what are you doing?" He goes, "I don't want to get hit by the ball." I'm like, "You got to get in front of it." He goes, "What if I get hit by the ball?" And at 8, I said to my PhD father, "Don't be stupid. That's what you have reactions for."
wow.
And he received it. So from the time of 8 years old, I was teaching people how to get in front of their fears. So fast forward, I had to learn how to dance with fear, not conquer fear, but how to use it as a coach, smelling
Mm,
salts as a just imagine for a second that fear is a sparring partner, like daring me into my greatest self. There's an Emerson quote that I really like.
mm,
Do the thing you fear, and the death of fear is certain. Like every time I cross the fear line, I get a little bigger. Every time I give into fear, my life shrinks. So fear is the only thing that I found that gets smaller as I run towards it and much larger as I run away from it. So that's a key principle. So when I was in high school, I was an arts kid, and I was getting ready for an engineering um, college experience. I wanted to go to the Naval Academy. So I was on a particular track. I played sports, I did all the activities. And so I found myself on stage a lot, and my stage fright was debilitating, like nauseous. Uh, to describe it as butterflies would be a wonderful thing. And that's not what I experienced. It wasn't butterflies. It was like soul crushing terror. And it was 2 years of that, being in front of large audiences, singing, playing my trumpet. I played Tony in West Side Story.
mm,
And I think my junior year, I realized that feeling that I got to write the story of what does that mean, and could it be this is the feeling I get before I do something awesome.
mm,
And then I found I loved that experience. I loved the way my physiology would change and get me really ready, to be in front of the audience. And I went through a version of that today before turning the lights on and the microphone and prepping for this. I love the way that feels. I like the preparation. And I find that discomfort, the higher that is, the higher the exhilaration. Those things go together.
mm,
So, so that's high school. High school, I was like, I'm either going to be a Navy officer or I'm going to be a musician. And my logic was, I can always be a musician. I have a limited window to do something special in the Navy. And so um, I thought I wanted to run nuclear power plants underwater because when I was 5, I wanted to be a steely-eyed missile man. That was the greatest compliment that anybody in the space program could bestow at another person. And I thought that being on a submarine was the closest I could get to being on a spaceship. Instead of exploring outer space, I wanted to explore inner space. So I spent 28 days on the USS Olympia, 5 days living in what felt like a clock. And I realized there was no sunlight in a submarine. And I was like, I can't do this. This is gonna kill me. And so I started looking, and one morning, we had physical training a couple times, right about this time. 6 o'clock in the morning is what it is here. And my mentor, he wasn't my mentor yet. His name is Sean Simmons. He's like, "Hey, Midshipman Muka, you got a sec? Yeah, I think you should join our EOD PT. A lot of acronyms. EOD is Explosive Ordnance Disposal. At that time, it was a well-kept secret. PT was physical training. He's like, you should come and join us." And I was like, Lieutenant Simmons, what business do I have, doing special operations physical training?
Mm.
He goes, what'd you do yesterday? I'm like, I don't know. I just rode my bike 60 miles. He goes, exactly. You're going to love the way this sucks. And I did. I did. I really like pushing the limits and figuring out like the pain threshold and how far could I go. And so, I started training with a detachment in Earl, New Jersey. That was the closest special operations unit to me. And then that summer, my dad was teaching a Lean Six Sigma class. He had this Navy commander, and they got to talking. And tell me about your family. Well, my son, he's a Navy ROTC, and he wants to do something crazy. He wants to be a bomb technician in EOD. And the guy goes, "That's crazy. I run the summer trainings for that, and right now, the United States Naval Academy, they do a special operations cruise. So if your son can figure out how to get orders, we'd love to have him." Okay. So I go to my command and I said, I need orders for Norfolk, Virginia for 2 weeks. They said, no way. And I said, well, what if you gave me no cost orders and I paid my own way? I said,
Mm.
that's fine. So I spent $439 for food and lodging, and I got to jump out of helicopters and blow up flare pods from my favorite airplane, the F-14 Tomcat from Top Gun. Top Gun's probably why I joined the Navy, if I'm being really honest. And I felt home. I loved it. I love the challenge of it. I love the physical challenge. I love the chess of, going toe to toe with bomb builders.
Mm.
And I remember being in the lean and rest. That's the top part of the push-up. There's no rest part of the lean and rest. It sucks the whole time. I was like, this is it. This is what I'm going to do. I came home. I lit every candle in church and I said, God, please, please, if this is meant to be, make it happen for me.
Mm.
And a couple months went by. I got a call from my class advisor, Lieutenant Shapiro. He said, you got it. I
Wow.
said, what? He said, you got it. I said, what? He's like, what part are you going to be a special operations officer you're not getting? I couldn't believe it. And that's an important theme.
Mm.
So I found another way into the community. I had good physical fitness scores. My transcripts at the University of Pennsylvania with an engineering degree. I didn't go to UPenn. I went to Drexel. I have an engineering light degree. It's a degree in commerce and engineering. So it's the
Mm.
first half of the engineering curriculum. And I
Mm.
was like, I cheated. And I networked my way into this. Like I was the first Navy ROTC midshipman to do this. And so that's why they picked me. And you change any one of those and I don't get selected. So I showed up to the community that way. Um, the next thing useful maybe is 40 days of dive school.
Mm.
Dive school, they got to from 6 o'clock in the morning until noon. And most mornings, because I had trained at the first CrossFit gym in Philadelphia to get ready for this. Uh, Many days I felt over prepared.
Mm.
There was probably 10 of those 40 days that I woke up tired and sore and wondering, would today be the last day? Those were the hardest. But the days that I showed up that you can't hurt me,
Mm.
it was fun. I enjoyed it. So fast forward, that's the first like gut check in the pipeline. And then we spent 14 months at Eglin Air Force Base learning how to be bomb technicians. Um, and the first real division is ground. So ground, there's the first test. So like the way the school works, you learn something on Monday, you're tested on Tuesday. If you fail the test on Tuesday, you're retested on Wednesday, and that could be the end of your ride. So Monday, I learned ordnance identification. I struggle with true false questions because I look for the loopholes and I overthink it. So I took my first ordnance identification test. That's the first real test in EOD school, and I failed it. And so for the next 24 hours, I worried and fretted this was the end of my career.
Mm.
And so Wednesday morning, I took the test again, and I failed it.
Wow.
And because my grades rounded up, so I had a 85 and a half. They rounded that up to 86. If it was an 85, my career in explosive ordnance disposal was over. I would drive a ship and hate my life. But because they rounded up to 86, I got recycled into the next class. So I had
Wow.
5 weeks to think about what just happened. And I learned that worry is never a performance enhancing drug. It only makes things worse. So, so that's sort of the formative parts.
Mm.
I took a team to Iraq a month into that. My chief, he was dying. His dad was dying of cancer, so I sent him home. And I knew I sort of sealed my fate that it wasn't going to go well for me after that. Um, I was fired as a platoon commander in northern Iraq. I was reassigned as night watch captain. So I got to sort of filter all the post blast reports. So if a vehicle borne explosive improvised explosive device went off, if there was a suicide vest, I got to oversee all those reports going up to our higher command. So for 4.5 months, I got to watch my friends do what they set out to do, and I got to play PowerPoint at night, and it was awful. Um, we built a CrossFit gym. I figured out how to get that funded. Church was cool because as these stories in Iraq happened, he would tell us, "Hey, this particular story happens 340 miles from here." It was neat being close to the source. I had Skype. I had a young sailor to mentor, and I found running. And so Saturdays was like kind of a relaxed day, and I'd go for really, really long runs. And I remember one particular Saturday, I'd run about 10 miles, and I'm just staring off into the desert, like I don't have to go back. Like, what if I just kept running and never came home? And I sat with my toes over the edge of the road, looking at the Iraq desert, pondering. And I got to know why people choose suicide.
Mm.
So probably after about 20 minutes, I'm like, I gotta go home. I have a family, I have a wife. I, I'm not, this is not how my story ends. And I turned around, there was a whole pallet of water, drank some water, and I ran home. And nobody at the command ever knew that. And my next year and a half was really hard. I had maybe 5 guys at the command, 6 guys. 6 guys that decided I didn't deserve to be there. I was the sixth. And this is my story around unworthiness.
Mm.
And I remember I remember we're at 2-2, which is our training unit, going through the final evaluation problem. That's how we get certified to deploy. We were going to support the Army Special Forces guys in Afghanistan. I think it was the most dangerous mission that we had. And my boss, Chris Merwin, called me to his office, and he looked haggard. And he said, "Brian, I've lost a lot of sleep over this. You're not the man to take your team to Afghanistan."
Wow.
My insides melted. My identity was gone, and I got to ask this question: what the fuck am I gonna do now? That's one of the scariest questions I've ever asked myself. And
Mm.
thankfully, I worked with this amazing mental health professional. Her name is Talia Gershon. Um, Gosh, she's a miracle. And we architected a plan to put me back together. And I started writing. She had me read Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning.
Mm.
Viktor Frankl taught me there's a space between stimulus and response, and it's in that space that we have our only freedom, and that's our freedom to choose.
Mm.
And I started building a body of work, like observing how to go from being buried alive to thriving again. And I would write her these like long emails about what I was learning. And I remember one day I came in her office and she's like, "Where are you getting this stuff from?" I said, "This is just how I'm making sense of what I'm going through. This is how I'm finding meaning." And she smiles and she goes, "Keep going, kid. I've been in therapy for 30 years. I've never seen this before."
Mm.
And that was the birth of Fear Sherpa and Your Secret Superpower, Tame Fear to Thrive. I, I became an author of a field manual of what to do if we get buried alive in life's avalanches. And I just started writing again on Substack. So brianmuka.substack.com. And I sent it to her. And she sent me a message. This is huge. This is going to change the world. And I said, hey, Talia, you remember when you told me that I had something? Keep going, kid. And it was like a really sweet moment.
Mm.
Yeah. So there's a divorce in there. There's a running out of money. There's 6 years of this entrepreneurial experience. 2018, after I got out of the Navy, I had won Salesman of the Year. And I remember being in Costa Rica and I'm writing in my red moleskin journal. That's a common theme. Like I can't do medical sales anymore. I have to share this gift. And I was touring with names of my business. Then it was Fear Sherpa. Now it's Freedom Sherpa. And the night before, I was given a $500 Mont Blanc pen, and I'm writing about Sherpas. And I look down and I'm looking at, like, Mont Blanc is named after the tallest mountain in Europe. I'm like, this is a sign. So June 1st, I quit medical sales. June 2nd, I saw the Dirty Heads play live. They have a song called Vacation every single day because I love my occupation. And finally, this year, I made those lyrics true. The third, I worked with one of the top breath instructors in the world. And then on the fourth, I woke up in my hammock at my friend's farm, not owned by the Navy, not owned by a company, and embarked on my entrepreneurial journey, which has been the most challenging experience of my life. Like deciding that I am worthy, deciding I have a song to sing, and doing something no one's ever done before. And
Mm.
that takes us to today.
Like you've died and resurrected again. If I took you back to the stories over time, over the centuries, what is the thing that you wish you were told when you were drowning in worry, fear, anxiety, thinking suicide, getting laid off, deciding you're worthless? Like, what is the thing that you wish someone had told you before all of the years that you went through? Really?
Hmm. I wouldn't change a thing.
Mm,
I'm glad I discovered this the way that it folded. It's perfect.
mm,
Um, a message though for my 28-year-old self going through all of this was you wanted to be part of a special mission.
mm,
God picked you for the most special mission. To be in someone's darkest hour and know how to lead them home. I need you to go through this. It's gonna hurt. You're gonna learn a lot. And you're gonna learn unconditional love and compassion for people as they go from buried alive to thriving. And you got to do it first. So I wasn't fired, I was picked. I was selected for something really, really special.
mm. What is your relationship to fear, great danger, and all of those things today? What is your relationship with? What is your new definition, understanding of danger, fear, or just the things we don't desire in our lives that get us so scared? What's your relationship with that? Because I think it's not gone away, but you have a new relationship with the experience.
So fear is a much broader term than danger. Like
Mm,
I don't like being on roofs in the middle of a thunderstorm, so I don't do that.
mm,
So in that case, fear is very useful.
mm,
Keeps me alive. The challenge with fear is that the social media stuff, the crucial conversation stuff, it feels like being on a roof in the middle of a thunderstorm,
mm,
but it isn't. They're shadows. And they're bigger than that. They're bigger than shadows because when I look at the thing that I'm most afraid of, and there's an Emerson quote that I love,
mm.
when I do the thing I most fear, death will certainly die.
Wow.
So what's the resistance? The resistance is the dare to be much bigger. And fear is like, I dare you. And so someone prepared, it's like, bring it on. I don't
Mm,
know what's going to happen, but we're going to figure this out. This could be our finest hour.
mm,
So the idea of the reverse azimuth of fear, it points directly to my desire. Like if I can be real with the audience, like in this entrepreneurial journey, cash flow has been tight.
mm,
And, a fear I had was not spending enough time with my mom and dad. Like I'm worried about running out of time.
mm,
And so I can concentrate on that and make that larger, and whatever I focus on gets bigger. Like that's worry, not as a performance enhancing drug, right?
mm,
And if I look at the opposite, like I love time with my parents and playing back in my imagination, I did it. I did it. My business is thriving. I'm singing my song, changing the world. I'm home for the next 2 weeks. I'm so glad to see you guys. So fear gives me the opportunity to choose. What do I focus on?
mm,
Small, safe, and comfortable, or miraculous? And it's like there's a movie, Indiana Jones and the Holy Grail, and there's a Knights Templar that guards the Holy Grail. And I think that's what fear is. It's a guardian. Uh it's it's the opportunities dressed up in work clothes. I like that as an idea. And I think when I look back on my life, all the things that I was afraid of, all the folks that, the narcissist, the guy that fired me, not Chris. Chris is awesome. He made a good decision, but the guy that architected a plan to
mm,
have me removed from command, he's actually an archangel. And I believe that I actually asked him to do that. Same thing with my practice wife. I need you to play this role for me because there's things that I need to learn, and I can only learn it if I go through it. Yeah, I'll do that for you. And so the second step of the whole process is gratitude. Breathing is first, gratitude is second. Um, oh, can I share this with you? I wrote this morning.
mm.
My acronym for fear.
Yes, like how do we move from fear to invisible?
So I don't know how to make fear go away after
Mm,
studying this as long as I did. Fear is there. It's kind of like the one next to the X in algebra. The one is always there.
mm,
And I get to decide my story in relationship to it. That's the space between stimulus and response from Viktor Frankl.
mm,
So quickly, I use the L.
mm,
Um, the pointer finger points to the nose, and I take a breath in. This is how I jump out of airplanes at night, by the way. So I breathe in. The thumb points to the heart. I'm so grateful that I am trained to be able to jump out of airplanes at night.
mm,
All right, so find the breath, experience gratitude, accept that I'm going to do something new. The acceptance. I'm not fighting it. I'm breathing it in. The fear, the anger, the hurt, the shame, the guilt, the unworthiness. I'm not trying to keep it at an arm's length anymore. I got really good at that. And the more I resist it, the more fear resists. There's
mm,
that phrase, what I resist persists. So I don't want to resist.
mm,
In Muay Thai, if I kick you, the further you are away from my hips, the more damage I can cause. So, people try to block with their hands. Sometimes they'll break an arm trying to block a
mm,
kick with the arm. The key is to move my hips as close to your hips as possible because now there's no leverage. I'm not
mm,
fighting it. Drinking in, what are you here to tell me? So that's the acceptance. And
mm,
then finally, it's rehearse. Rehearse exactly what I want to have happen instead of what I'm afraid could happen. So that's fear. So find the breath, experience gratitude, accept, and rehearse.
mm. So let's play a scenario of I just lost my dream job like you did, or I just lost the partner of my life, or I just lost my only kid. Let's play that from like a real scenario of how do I even find gratitude in stuff like that? Help us through a scenario like you lost your job. Okay. If you had this flame work, how would it have played out?
So, never lost a child. I did lose my dream job.
Mm,
And that's a story. I lost my dream job.
mm,
And so if I add just a few words to this, I rep this a lot. I lost what I thought was my dream job to find my actual life's work.
Mm.
So this isn't it. This is a no. That door is closed.
Mm.
What's next? I'm so grateful to be going through this because with every trauma, there's a treasure. It's my job to find the treasure
Mm.
and getting really curious. What's next? Why did I create this? The mea culpa. This is my fault. This is my responsibility. Why did I do this? And the step one is to cure the victim. This happened to me. The next level, so like 94% of the population, it's happening to me. It's easy to spot. This
Mm.
person did this to me. Like it's a lot of you.
Mm.
The second part is this happened for me. Thank you, Tony Robbins. So, maybe that's 4% of the population um happened for me.
I don't know, like not much, not many people do that. It's probably I don't know. Um,
I don't know. I'm making the numbers up on the spot.
mm.
67% of statistics are, made up on the spot.
Mm.
The next level, so it's happening for me, is it's happening with me.
Mm.
So I get to acknowledge that I created this for my greatest good, for my greatest good, very singular, Brian Muka centric. And then the sweep spot, it's happening through me.
Mm.
So I can turn this pain into treasure when I share the pain and I make it into art.
Wow.
So what if I'm co-creating life with God or the universe or however any words I use here aren't big enough to really describe what I mean,
Mm.
but it's happening through me. I wonder why. So the curiosity in that is huge. Love of my life, I got to experience that,
Mm.
and I had to look for that one. Um, I realized that I was settling for so little, and I wasn't really showing up in my business. I was afraid. I was afraid to get on social media. I was afraid to say, "Hey, I built something. Would you like to experience it?" And again, do the thing you fear, and the death of fear is certain, like on the daily. And the other thing I learned in that experience is whatever I'm most afraid of on my to-do list, it's the most important thing because it matters. A lot of the, not a lot, there's a handful of really, really good, like world-class speakers. They still puke before they get on stage because it still matters, and then they go on and do it anyway.
Mm.
And so sometimes the word and question mark, and I'll use an example. So I
Mm.
train in ice baths. There's been 2 ice baths I've ever looked forward to doing. I never want to do that. And I get to hear my little boys go, well, I don't want to get the ice bath. Well. Here's the key. Here's the turn. I don't want to get the ice bath. And it's time to get in the ice bath to do it
Mm.
anyway. There's a lot of
Wow.
power in that.
Wow. Brian, you said in one of the submissions that you sent, the spiritual work is 2%, and the rest is 2% or 20%, and the rest gets to be the work of the soul. I read in one of the statements you had submitted when you came on the show, and you had said, manifestation, spiritual work, all of those things, what you found was 2% was all of that.
Oh,
And 98% is the dark night of soul work. And I was wondering if you would be willing to kind of give context to the person who is listening.
sure.
Like, what does he mean by that?
Yes. So what I notice, folks are doing vision boards and visualization and all the stuff from the movie The Secret.
Mm.
Most people it doesn't work. Why? Well, it's
Mm.
the other 98%. It's the subconscious mind programming.
Mm.
So like I grew up Catholic. Every time I went to church, Lord, I am not worthy that you should enter under my roof, but only say the word and I shall be healed. Like from the time I was a baby,
Mm.
I learned about original sin and there's something wrong and I must repent. Like
Mm.
it's confusing. And so I had to unwire that. Like
Mm,
God, like in this 13.4 billion light year universe experience is probably bigger than that, but that's as large as we know it is right now.
mm,
There's not a single electron out of place in that whole like unfathomable distance.
mm,
How could I be a mistake? How could there be something wrong with me except for the illusion that I think I'm separate from God? That's what I mean.
mm,
And so I've got to go under the bed. I've got to go under the house. I got to go into all of the dark corners with my parents and the schools and the church. Said, don't go there. Stay in my light. But all the greatest discoveries are in the darkness. So digging into the hurt and the trauma and the disappointment and the fear and the heartbreak, like that's where all the treasure is. There's a metaphor or a fable. You know, the gods are like, we've got this treasure, we need to hide it from man. Where shall we put it? And they said on the top of Mount Everest. He can barely breathe there. He'll never find the treasure. And we did that. You know, Sergei Norgood and Sir Edmund Hillary went to the top of Mount Everest and they found the treasure.
mm,
And the gods then said, well, that's not going to do. Where can we hide the treasure now? Like, well, man can't breathe underwater. So let's bury it 35,000 feet in the Marianas Trench. And we built a submarine and we went down and we found the treasure in the Marianas Trench. And finally, the wisest of all the gods said, I know exactly where to hide this treasure. Let's bury it inside of man, for he shall never look there. That's what I'm
mm.
saying.
Brian, you talk a lot about becoming invisible. And some of us, most of us, that word is far-fetched. We don't probably believe it. We don't even think it's for us.
Ah.
We don't know how we could possibly move from being in our pants to being invisible. Everything that happens shakes us like a problem. We can't even make like life transitions. When we're divorced, we cringe. When we lose a job, we pee in our pants. It's just a mess where we are. And for you to say this is your code to being invisible, we might want to believe it, but there is something in the bottom of our head going, really, you. So help me understand. I know you've created thought leadership around this. So help me understand how I move from this place of, I would like to call it a place where you're wibbly, a place where anything can knock you down, to a place of being invisible. Like, how do we get from here
Yep.
to there? Because I know that's the work.
Cool.
That's the work you do behind the scenes.
So imagine your favorite 5-year-old. Could be you, could be a
Mm,
niece, could
mm,
be a friend's kid.
mm,
5-year-olds are invincible. They cry until they get what they want. They do whatever they feel like
mm,
doing. So we don't have to become invincible. We just have to remember our unique invincibility code, right? So
mm,
if a 5-year-old doesn't judge him or herself. They are relentless in getting what they want, and they believe they will get what they want. So every time you're around a 5-year-old, a 4-year-old, a 6-year-old, just watch. They're such good teachers in all of
mm,
that. They breathe deeply. They breathe into their belly. They squat perfectly. Their running form is perfect.
mm,
All we have to do is remember. So you already know how to do this. It's just a matter of remembering. Second, General Grossman is one of my favorite quotes on military strategy. He said, if you ever find yourself in a fair fight, you have not appropriately prepared. What are the tactics of the enemy? You don't know what you're doing. People are going to think you're stupid. That mind chatter usually is a liar.
mm,
How do I stop that? And all of us have our unique way to do that. For me, it's breath work, it's movement, it's exercise, it's tapping into the quantum field in that quantum sound tuning. So as my body's changing, there's no room for thought. So I need to interrupt the thought pattern.
mm,
And I think maybe the last part of that, there are zero Delta airline pilots that if the left engine goes out, they have to figure out what to do. They already know.
mm,
Like there's probably 3 to 5 common triggers: losing a contract. Hey, babe, we need to have a crucial conversation. I'm scared to go on social media. I'm scared to ask for the business. Whatever the thing is, there's
mm,
5. And so if we can apply the fear framework to find the breath, experience gratitude, accept, and rehearse, and we
mm,
can write if I can write a program for that, and I could run the program for a few weeks. And then it's really helpful to work with someone in this because they can see the blind spots. Because, like, I'm here, it's hard to see the forest among the trees. And so, how do I refine my emergency procedure for my common triggers?
Mm,
So what if we learn the tactics of the enemy? We put systems in place to thrive in that, where this is a key move. If I'm trying to figure out how to not die when my parachute didn't open, that's probably not the right time because I've got the fear, I've got the adrenaline, I've got the cortisol, and I'm now thinking like a reptile and I can see about this much.
mm,
If I'm on the ground in a simulator with the people who designed the system, I'm probably going to come up with a better methodology. So
mm,
if I write a system when I don't need it, it's going to be more elegant than if I'm like, holy shit, what am I going to do?
mm,
And if I practice the holy shit, what am I going to do? Over time, that fear response becomes the sparring partner. And every time I spar with somebody, they telegraph and they teach me their moves. Like I become my opponent.
mm,
And my opponent also learns my skill too. So it's like once I learn a particular level, the game gets harder. And then I'm like, oh, cool, I've got another tool. And then I apply that and it's like, ah. And then the game increases. I'm like, all right, well, I need to do this for more people, or it's more intense, or there's no easy answer to what you just asked. It's a practice and it's a way of being. And in that way of being, we get to realize I'm becoming the man of my dreams.
Could you describe the brand before and the brand now? Still living through the fear, still probably having that little voice saying you're not worthy, whatever. Could you describe for us the brand before with the brand now? Because I know that there is people who will be like, man, I am like just the before you. Like I can see myself in the before you. But the brand now, what's the difference? Which we probably may not see, but like what could change if somebody decided to do this? And I know you talk about the red pill, so maybe you want to talk about that as well. Like if we chose the red pill, if we chose this path less traveled, if we chose this path of saying maybe fear means something else, maybe fear is a gift, maybe all of these things I can use to co-create or create life. I don't know. Maybe I can move from life is happening to me to life is happening through me. Give us kind
Mm-hmm.
of the before and after so that we can begin to go, is this worth it for us?
Okay, so Brian before my life avalanche. That was the turning point. So the
Mm,
best worst day of my life created this whole cascade of experiences because I said yes. And maybe I created that explosion to have anything worthwhile to say on your show.
mm,
So the Brian before the explosion had no idea who he was.
mm,
Um, I found in this journey that there's three levels of courage. So there's the courage to say yes to triathlons and jumping out of airplanes and being a lifeguard, right? 2 minutes or less, I had that.
mm,
The next level of courage is moral courage to always do the right thing. And so I didn't know who I was. I was a chameleon.
mm,
Middle school, I was made fun of mercilessly. I got crucified in Catholic school.
mm,
Thank you. Those kids taught me grit,
mm,
right? But it was hard and lonely. And so I made sacrifices to try to fit in. And that brings me to the third level of courage, the courage to be authentic. I wasn't authentic. I was whoever you needed me to be in that moment. And I'm still that way.
mm,
Except I know who I am. So that's a really a gift. Like what mask do I need to wear so that you can hear what I'm saying? So today I'm playing special operations uh Sherpa for this interview, you
mm,
know? And so the ability to know who I need to be without losing my core, I didn't have that.
mm,
My best was never good enough. We had a saying in our household, A was average, B
mm,
was below average, C was can't go out, D was don't go home, and I didn't fail anything until I got to college.
mm,
And so this was not my dad's intention, but I learned that, you know, your best is never good enough. And so I used that unworthiness as fuel. You suck. You're weak. Figure this out. And I wish I could go back to the beginning of my athletic career and just realize like you're in a beautiful body, you're strong, you're resilient. Using love instead of I used fear as fuel for most of my life. I felt lonely. Um, I didn't know what my values were, and I played for the approval of others. And it's been a it's been a challenging road remembering my authenticity, not seeking outside validation, knowing that I am doing the best that I can. I'm serving the Holy Grail in a way that most people can't understand. Friends, family, you know, they don't get it. That's all right. They don't have to get it. I get it. That's what's different. I get it.
The last time we had a chat, you said, I never looked on the inside.
No.
I always looked on the outside for answers. And I didn't know I had the answers though. What would you like to speak to that? Because you said I always
Yeah.
thought the answers were outside of me. Could you speak to that? Because I know there is someone going, what's the next book? What's the next guru? What has Tony Robbins said? What's the next thing I can do? Could you tell us why that may not work out as good?
Well, it works until it doesn't work.
Mm,
So I had a conversation with this really successful lawyer about that was a little while ago, and he asked me, he's like, "So what are you doing? Like, what are you doing to make money?" I'm like, "Well, I drive Uber, I have coaching clients." He goes, "So your business isn't successful?" And I was like, "I don't know how to respond to this," because like he had started 6 companies, he started a digital magazine, um, and I was like really shut down. I was like 15 years old all over again.
mm,
Like, you're right, I'm wrong, right? And I talked to my business partner, Larry, with Red Pill Pathway, and I'm like, man, I got shut down. I didn't know how to handle this. And he goes, what do you wish you could have said to him?
mm,
I said, you had like 10,000 successful lawyers just to copy what they did for you to be successful. It's easy. Like, you started the magazine, that's cool. But the initial entrepreneurial breakthrough, you had somebody teach you how to do that. So I had somebody teach me how to breathe. I had somebody teach me how to do Tai Chi Gong.
mm,
I had somebody teach me how to think. I was able to hire the best coaches. And for what already existed in the world, I can hire a coach to teach me what they learned. And that's great until I find my unique song to sing. And no one's done this before. And I
mm,
was trying to find a teacher for this breath, quantum sound healing that powers up the imagination, like lucid psychedelic experiences. And this gift chose me, and I could use it for healing. And you know, um, so I sought a teacher for years, and I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars trying to find that piece. And again, it's back to, where do we hide the treasure? Let's hide it deep inside man, for he will never look there.
mm,
So what I want to name is, so like triathlons, cycling, school, military. There's a standard operating procedure and a coach that teaches that. And then as soon as I step into the white part of a map that hasn't been filled out yet, there's no more coaches. There's no more books.
mm,
There's things that I've learned through reading other people's journey through this desert, through this void. They're like, oh, that's useful. I can apply it to what I'm doing. So I think it's possible as peers to like triangulate and figure stuff out. But like, it's a lonely journey for a while, leaving the fold and deciding to be authentic. Um, my friends and I use this analogy. There's 3 types of people that sit around a campfire. There's the folks that drove their car and they car camp, and they got everything they need. It's comfortable, and they get to hang out by the fire. Then there's the backpackers. You know, they they hike together, and it's a little more adventurous, and they get to warm themselves by the campfire. And then there's those of us that are mountaineers,
mm,
and every person individually climbs Everest. No one can do that for me. And it's a solo journey, and it's risky, and the details matter. And those folks come back and share their stories around the campfire. But those mountaineers, they're going to go back out and climb another mountain by themselves.
What I'm picking from you is the deeper you go, the less answers you may find. The more you dip, like the more you go and find your unique blueprints, the more likely no one has that blueprint going. And so you follow the gurus until you find your soul, and your soul is saying there is work that needs to be done, and you're the author of this work, and no one has done
Mm-hmm.
it. And now you go, holy cow.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly it. And uh, I'm going to share this.
Mm,
If this doesn't resonate, kick it back.
mm,
In the Buddhist spiritual journey, there's something called the Satori.
mm,
This is common among other um, thought religion systems
mm,
where the sensei wants to lock the mind in combat with itself. So like an unsolvable riddle
mm,
to show that none of the actual answers come from here. All of the answers, everything that we seek is in the heart in a way sometimes that words can't describe. And
mm,
so empirically, I can figure stuff out, like the quantum physics. And like, cool, I've got that solved. Like Einstein, he couldn't, he came up with E equals MC squared, but he couldn't make his theory of general relativity work in all areas because he didn't want to look at the spooky effect of how our thoughts change the world around us. So he wasn't able to break through that. There's another layer, and we're
mm,
studying that now with quantum physics and quarks and all that stuff. Somebody's going to figure that out, and there's going to be another layer, and then another layer, and then another
mm,
layer. So it isn't in the brain that we find the answers.
mm,
In fact, there are no answers. And to realize like my body, the feeling of excitement, love, expansiveness, like what if that's the guide? What if I don't get to see all the steps? What if I don't have to figure out all the steps either? And again, I love the movie Indiana Jones and the Holy Grail because there's another scene where he has to step over this void. This is actually a great metaphor. He can't see the path. And so
mm,
what does he do? He takes a handful of sand and throws it on the invisible path, and he gets to see where do I put my right foot. And then he can see the sand and he figures out where he can put his left foot. I think it's close. For me, that's closer. So I don't get to see the whole trail. And when I stop being married to the perfect system for life, there's now space for the miracles to have a life beyond my dreams. Because I can't see it. I can't see it with my human mind. But my
mm,
heart knows the way all of the time. That's why we breathe into the heart, find gratitude,
mm.
because love conquers all.
It's funny you say that because there's a component of faith in the work I do. And I remember one day I was so frustrated and I said, Lord, has this work been done before? Does someone have the answers? Is there a place I can go and kind of see how this is done? Because I was being told to do something that I wasn't sure I had the capacity to do. And I got a message that said, there is a territory, there's a kingdom, and it has your name on it. So I refuse to bless all of the shortcuts, all of the places you're putting your nose for answers. I want you to step into the territory. It's scared, but I have angels, I have masters, I have the tools, I have all of the guidance ready, waiting. But you have to
Mhm.
step into the territory that has your name on it. Because at the moment, there's people sat there and they're not qualified. And so I need you to kick them out and take your territory. And everything you try to do that doesn't have that name on it, I refuse to bless it. And I was like, wow. Okay.
Wow.
That was so clear. I was
Wow.
like, okay. I was like, you're playing too small. There is a territory. It has your name on it. There is people sitting in it, and they need to get out. And as long as you're trying to do something that is lower than that, or smaller than that, or not that, I refuse to bless it. I
It's not
need
gonna
you to
work.
go take your seat. And I was like, wow. And I said, when you take the seat, all the help will come. All the guardian, all the God, the angels, the tools, whatever you're looking for will come. But this is not in the wild way of doing things. This is my way. And so you don't have to know the how. You just have to go. And I was like, geez, this is hard. But literally that happened to me. And so
I wanna that's brilliant. That's a great explanation. And I want to name two things. So the second one is running the universe. So if I forget where I'm going, remind me of that. The first one is if you choose, if you're listening to this, and I'm not asking you to follow my path, if you choose to find your path, you will be met with these things. There will be these challenges. Just amazing. Imagine your favorite choose your own adventure mystery book. Like you're going to be faced with the unknown, and you'll either have a process to deal with the unknown or you won't. You can be reactive or proactive and practice it now and find your own path. And if you do that, report back, right? Like I want to know what you find because it's yours to share it. And I seem to help people get started in finding their gifts and their first emergency procedure as you refine it over time. So I just want to name this. It's going to feel hard and it's going to feel lonely and it's like it's going to feel the opposite of what you know. And it's just so easy to run back to what we know and what we're told is safe and what we're supposed and should be doing. And that path of discomfort is the path of least resistance to all of my dreams, in my estimation. Maybe it's true for you too. So that's the first thing. If it feels hard, it is actually the path of least resistance to everything we're meant to do here on Earth, right? The second thing, I was in a meditation, and this voice is like, "Hey, Brian, can you run the universe for a second?" He said, "Yep." Pretty sure I was talking to God. I said, "Yep." And he said, "Hold on there, kid. In order to run the universe for a second, here's at least two challenges you're going to have. First, you got to get the moon just right in relation to the Earth. Like you're 10,000 miles too close, a bunch of people are going to die by drowning. You're 2,000 or 10,000 miles the other way, all women on Earth are going to get their period. So be careful." Like, okay, cool. I can do orbital geometry. Fine. You can figure that out. And then he goes like this. You think the universe is 13.4 billion light years across? It's bigger than that, but we'll call it that. Do you know that there's not a single electron out of place in 13.4? Like that's an unfathomable amount of space. You know that? Yeah. Cool. So for 1 second, you got to make sure all the electrons are perfectly placed. Can you do that? No. And he goes, well, then shut the fuck up. I had it. I have it. I will always have it. And if you can just remember that I've got it and I've got a more perfect plan for you than you can possibly imagine, just trust. I got it. I got you.
There's a place I want to go, Brian, because this is the place that was the hardest for me. Letting go of the how. When I created my first business, when I left my job, I was there for 4 years and I couldn't let the job go. And one day I was like, no, I left. But I had to create like something on the side and see it profitable. And I was like, now I can leave. And then as I was doing the offline business, I literally got this calling to go online and leave the offline business. And I was like, what? Online? I'm in Uganda. The internet is like crappy and the power is in and out. And I was like, online. And the only thing I understood online is people dancing on TikTok. I'm like, I'm not about to go dance on TikTok. Like, why would anyone ask me to go online? And then I just kept in there. And then COVID came and slapped me out of business. And I was like, Lord, this is serious. Now I actually have nothing. I don't have the business. And I only had a phone with 3G internet and an old HP laptop. And I was like, maybe this online thing is real. And so I come online. 9 months later, I have no client. I'm struggling. My first client comes. My first 6 figures come. I start doing 6 figures every year. And I'm like, this is cool. My clients start moving from 0 to 6 figures. I'm like, this is the dream. And the voice comes back and says, this is not the business that I want you to create. And I'm like, now I think you're high on drugs, like for real. You want me to leave a business that is making me 6 figures and do something else. And the voice said, I want you to go and build a platform that will break generational curses in this world. And I'm like, no way. Like me, first of all, I don't know the curses in my own head. I don't know how to break those. And you're telling me to facilitate something that will break curses. And it's like, you. And I'm like, all right. And so I start dragging my feet. In the middle there, I get another revelation that you're gonna have a partner or whatever, my husband or whatever, is gonna come and is gonna have some of this help that you need to do the work that I'm asking you to do, which you don't know that you're supposed to do. So I'm going to bring someone in your life as your life partner who's going to give you some of the tools you need. And I'm like, okay. And it's like, and you don't need to go for any date. You don't need to wear any little dress. You don't need to do nothing. Just stay in the work you're doing, stay on your computer, keep working. Who come? And I'm like, Lord, did you take weed? Like, how does someone meet a life partner without leaving their computer? And so
That's funny.
I'm in that process. And then I write a post on Facebook. My husband sees it and decides this is my wife. And that post was talking about when I was broke like a joke and couldn't afford toilet paper. The guy sees it and he says, no, this is my wife. He's now here. It's been 2.5 years. We marry a year later. And this is the person, the human being that has been able to show me the parts of me that needed healing. The only person in this world who had the ability to trigger some kind of anger from me, which then brought me to doing this work that I'm doing now, which has brought all of the people that have the gifts to break generational curses. And so talk about the how. And I'm like, geez, how have you come? Because of that and several other small things, that business I was doing, by the way, died one client at a time. Everyone left. And I was left at zero. And I was forced to start what I'm doing now, which is really what I think that I had to be doing. And I want to ask you, what's your process when you're stuck in the how is it supposed to happen and there's no how? Like, give me that process, because I feel like it can be the hardest because you want to know the how and the proof, and it's not there, it's not coming.
If you say so. I mean, step one is fuck how, right? It's my favorite, kung fu move is fuck how. It's not up to me. Here's what I've learned. Oh, wow, I'm going to share this today. Sweet. Oh, I met my partner over Zoom too when she was 2,700 miles away during COVID. So I just wanted to chime in. She's in the other room right now. She's amazing. And just like you said, there's just certain things that only our lovers can teach us. Especially around the show me my triggers and show me where I'm not yet free. She has been a wonderful sparring partner and witness to my highest calling. She accepts nothing less than my excellence. And God bless her patience with me. So a few months ago, I was doing some energetic tuning with a musician. And I find that when someone is like further down the neurodivergent spectrum, ADHD spectrum, autistic, these spiritual gifts are like off the charts. So so I'm working with this lady, and this orb comes. It looks like a crystal ball. And then as I'm staring at this ball in my mind's eye, it activates. It's like this electric purple, this electric blue, and it's starting to like bend gravity and light around it. It looks like a black hole. That thing would come to visit me often. And it makes this sound. And when it makes the sound, if I pull it, I could feel like when I start yawning, I know energy's flowing. I just brought that into my body. Now I'm going to go through it. And so as I'm flying through this thing, one weekend I was obsessed with Matthew McConaughey. I listened to like 3 or 4 different interviews. In that same weekend, I listened to Green Light. Like I was obsessed. And at the end of the Green Lights book that he narrated, I was like, oh, I'm going to watch a Matthew McConaughey movie. I watched Interstellar. And in that movie, I saw the orb.
Mm.
And I realized it's not just an orb, it's a wormhole. And what I saw, that was the invitation to fly through the center of it. And I'm naming that because this is a gift that chose me. And I use that now when I connect with people to cast out demons and the scalar light quantum healing. It's showing me what to do. I don't know what to do with it. Like this is an eighth dimension thing.
Mm.
And what I learned is in the gift comes with instructions. And so if I'm in a, how am I going to make this work? How am I going to make the bills work? My volume's up here. The thing about the gift is the volume's here. So I have to find stillness so I can hear it, so I can see
Mm.
it. It's
You have to
there.
decrease so it can increase. Mm.
This stays the same.
Oh,
The volume increases though when I'm not listening. Are you familiar with the feather, the hammer, and the Mack truck
nope.
idea?
No.
So I trusted that breath would be the first step in this process of harnessing fear.
Mm.
Breath's the only thing that the body and the brain have to listen to. And if I modulate my breath to my inner state and the outer state, I can calibrate. Just like, what we
Mm.
talked about. Breath is the first step for me. And it's also the gateway drug because like folks are like, oh yeah, breath work's important. Like I just can't go run off with most people and start doing my fun Jedi level stuff. It's too much.
Mm.
So the feather in my marriage, my practice wife, the feather was I was in my garage and I had 10 people doing ice baths and breathing. We're doing some like deep trauma. And she comes outside and she says, what are you weirdos doing? It's like, that's not cool. Like maybe the appropriate question was, can I take a picture? Like, how can I help right now? No, it was, what are you weirdos doing? So that was the feather.
Mm.
Uh, I end up in Mount Hood. I trained for 5 days with Wim Hof to become a master's certified Wim Hof ice bath facilitator.
Mm.
It was the single greatest like coming home of my life. There were 65 other people, and they're like, "Oh, this is why I didn't fit in middle school because these are my people." And
Mm.
we're finally. So I come home. She picks me up at the airport, and she goes, "I just have one question for you. I don't want to know anything about your trip. How are you going to pay for that?" I'm like, I just put $60,000 in the bank in my last 2 quarters before I quit medical sales. I'll figure it out. She didn't want to know anything about the experience. And like that really hurt. The PTSD stuff, the trauma, the feeling lonely and on earth. Like that's where it started shifting. And well, the Mack truck was I couldn't take it anymore. I said I want a divorce. She goes, "Do you want to think about it?" I'm like, I've been doing therapy for a year. I've done so many plant medicine journeys to try to figure out this answer. No, I'm certain. And she goes, I'll separate the checking accounts. That was a 9-year relationship. I could have listened at any part, but I finally got clobbered by the Mack truck and it created a vacuum and another desert to walk through. And everything I had learned from being fired and selected for the special mission, the book that I wrote,
Mm.
I got to eat the book. Like, like if I was a chef, my uncle shared this with me. You're a chef, you made a great meal. Now you get to eat the meal. So I got another really powerful repetition through divorce. And this is what I'm saying. Like, I figured something out. Let me test it. It enhanced my understanding. And I've pretty much got to the point where I don't know, I don't need to go any deeper to
Mm.
extract this treasure. Like, I don't need to create more stressful pressure. How the fuck am I going to do this moments?
Mm.
To the test, the test now is to guide other people through this. And like the shared desire is to start this process and for me to refine a more universal system. So
Mm.
we do this together, just like two cards supporting each other. You know, one card falls, they both fall. So I think that's a really neat.
We've gone through a lot. A lot. What is the one thing though that if we didn't talk about, this conversation would be incomplete? What do you feel led to touch that we haven't touched as we go towards the end of the interview?
The one thing we haven't talked about is
Mm,
you, the listener. What are you
mm,
experiencing? What was
mm,
your breakthrough? Where were you triggered? I want to know those things. Um, so this is our kind of starting point. This is just that spark, and we get to start a movement, and wherever we are in life, beginning and somewhere in the middle, it's all valuable. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. And like, I'm really getting comfortable with knowing I don't know. And I feel this interview's flowed like water, however it needed to. So like, if we ended it right now, I'd feel complete.
mm.
Uh, Let me check in on that. Hold on. What would I don't have a way over these last 13 years of studying and living it and experimenting with it. Like, I just
Mm,
want to be able to red pill you.
mm. Let's talk about
Uh,
the red pill. Let's talk
hold,
about the
hold,
work you do. Let's talk
Prima, just
about, yeah.
hold on 1 second. Let me just finish this thought.
Okay.
This is one of the hardest things for me to know that, like, with my spiritual gifts, I can take that pain and trauma,
Mm,
and it doesn't do you a disservice to skip that. The caterpillar who gets eaten alive by the butterfly's immune system to then be able to fly. Like,
mm,
we're gonna we're gonna go through that. I'm gonna go through that again. And if there's anything I can do to ease that journey, I want to know how to do that. And yet, we all have to take our own medicine. And often it's a really solo journey. I'm just prepping the battlefield. Like, if you decide you want to do this path and it's worth it, it's a life beyond our dreams, there's a penance. And that's the death of our old ideas, our old way of being, and a lot of relationships.
mm.
So the cost is great and the treasure is greater. So I just want you to know that it exists. There's like not a shortcut through this. The path of least resistance is painful and lonely sometimes. And that's the stuff that triumph is made out of. I fucking did it.
Are you complete there?
Very much so. Thank you.
I want to talk about I want to talk about the red pill. I want to talk about the work you do behind the scenes. I want to talk about how you support people, the containers, and all of that stuff. Would you love to go there?
Definitely. So what I started out doing very much on purpose
Mm,
is teaching breath and facilitating ice baths. Ice bath became a really great training stimulus. Still do that.
mm,
Um on purpose. The one-on-one work has been my focus.
mm,
I'm realizing that the group is way more powerful than anything I can do solo. Even when I practice breath and my energy stuff by myself, it's not as good as when I share it with somebody else. So I think I'm finding that we're designed to do this together. And often the biggest breakthroughs come from the folks in the group, not from me. So we're all learning for each other. I just kind of get to point the boat
mm,
in a direction we want to go. The other thing I learned, especially with men, it's decision between, do I invest in myself in personal spiritual development,
mm,
or do I invest in the ROI, KPIs, marketing, advertising, sales stuff? That seems to
mm,
be the line in the sand. And for me, the through line to the business success that I want has come from the 98%, going under the house, the blocks. Why can't I breathe fully? Why do I have trouble sleeping? Why am I stressed all the time? Like all of that is turbulence keeping this from like really singing, right?
mm,
So what we're doing, what we're currently experimenting, it's an ongoing finding next, not what was.
mm,
Um, Russell Brunson, thank you for everything that you did with ClickFunnels and Gary Vaynerchuk. Again, it comes back to, I figured this out, do it my way, this will work for you, is a lie.
mm,
And so what if we could create an ecosystem where, Prima, you find your unique prosperity code? which is unique to you. It's not going to be the same,
Mm,
as Maria's, right?
mm,
Thank you, Maria, for connecting us. So no longer do these people have to decide between the spiritual work and the business work. It's all in the same holistic ecosystem. And it's very much about the experience economy. We're like, what are you noticing? Okay, how can we use that? Here's what we're noticing. How do we put all the parts and pieces together to figure out in this period of uncertainty, how do we
mm.
thrive together?
I really like what you said there. There is no KPI, return on investment, without a person. I actually do believe that the person is the most important. Because I love the book. Wherever you go, there you are. So if
Mm,
we don't take care of the soul, if we don't take care of the human being, the business will experience that person. The marriage will experience that person. Wherever you go, there you are. Yet we
mm,
have a way of putting you last. Like, why is that? Why are we investing in business before the human being? And most people are solopreneurs. And they are
mhm.
just like a bounce of, they're like a reflection of the business. So why are we trying to build a business when this human being here is not at full capacity? Like, why do we do that? I don't know.
I think it gets into unworthiness in a big way.
No.
Or I'll do this when someday I'll do that.
Mm.
But right now I'm scared. I don't know how I'm gonna make payroll this month.
Yeah, but the surest way not to make payroll is to stay where you are. Or
Well,
I
yeah,
don't
worry
know,
worry
but
about it. Worry about it some more. Make it bigger.
no, no. I
Yeah.
think that I am not opposing the government or the systems or what, but I think the system has failed me as a person. They've taught me everything I needed to know apart from how to live, how to heal, how to get out of my own way, how to be functional enough that I can contribute. And so I really don't know what else is there to teach mankind that is further away, greater than them mastering themselves and giving them a chance to move from where they are to being, I don't know. But I think that without the human
You
being,
do know. You do know.
Brian, I don't
Like
know.
this is such an important vein, right? So in my country, um, Rockefeller and JP Morgan decided that kids didn't need to know about money because that's actually not good for factory workers. And so they changed the public schools to make better factory workers. And so when I look at the statistics, this isn't my opinion, this is the fact. The kids that go to Montessori, like um, the CEOs, major companies in our country, 99% of them went to Montessori schools. They learn a different way of thinking than public schools. So this goes back to like control and like serfdom, where if I don't know how to read, I don't know how to manage myself, I don't know how to tap into God power, I don't have resources, I'm easy to control. So as we're listening, as we're having this conversation together, like on the other side of this work is liberation.
Mm.
To not do this work means to be stuck in a system. It's not really there for you. So either I'm working my program or I'm being programmed. It's the only two options.
First, and I want to kind of put this question: if you're not prioritizing you, if you're not prioritizing your healing, if you're not prioritizing this growth, if you're not prioritizing finding that purpose, that calling, that assignment you're here to do, like, what are you prioritizing? Like, what is the priority if you're not prioritizing that? Because everything is a ripple effect of the human being you
It's,
are and the
it's
stories you
distraction.
carry. Everything else
The,
is a
the game is just
distraction. Yes.
the game is distraction.
Oh.
The game is distraction, fear, right? So the worst thing we could have done during COVID was be
Mm.
afraid of it because
Mm.
fear literally turns off the immune system.
Mm.
During the Spanish flu, the mayor of New York City actually asked the newspapers to stop writing about the Spanish flu, and they did. And within a month, it was gone.
Hmm.
What we worry about happens.
You just said something that got me thinking 100 times. Fear turns off the immune system.
Yeah.
So whatever you're
Turns off the
scared
brain
of,
too.
whatever you're scared of is destined to happen. Wow.
There's such a powerful African proverb, and I think about this a lot.
Mm.
When the enemy within is conquered, no outside enemy can hurt me.
Mm.
And the things that I'm afraid of are shadows. They feel
Wow.
real. They
Wow.
aren't. It's a lie and it's an illusion. And so to prove that, I choose that is my will
Mm.
to do something that scares the shit out of me every day.
Do what you're
Just one
scared
thing.
of. So it's certain. What is the thing you started with? Do what you're scared of. So you're certain to die. What was that you started with? I feel like it's the best time to start again.
Let me get that quote right. So do the thing you fear, and the death of fear is certain.
Brian, what's my next step? If I'm thinking, I love this guy, I want to do something with him, I want to test what he's doing, I want to get involved,
Oh,
whatever capacity, what should I do next? If I'm listening and going, yeah, I love this guy, I want
oh,
to do something with him.
yeah. Well, come to the Invincibility Dojo,
Mm.
and I have a 5-day guest pass, and yeah, come experience Red Pill and my work. Um, yeah, it's I'll share the link. It's the Invincibility Dojo, and I don't love talking about the experience, so
Mm.
just experience what you experience, and then we'll talk about it and see what's next.
Do you want to take a minute to tell us a little bit about red pill? Like, why the name? Why is it a red pill? What does it mean?
We just started touching on it. There's what's being presented to the
Mm.
masses right now.
Mm.
Get a job, the things that we're supposed to do, the things that are opposite of my unique 5-year-old invincible self.
Mm.
Red pill is all about waking up to what's already inside.
Mm.
It's not a marketing guru, it's not another course, it's not another, hey, how to. It's about what works for me. What am I noticing, and how do I interact with the world around me in a way that serves the world and me at the same time?
So you can either
It's
choose
the
the blue pill, which is the known path, or you can choose the red
That's right.
pill, which is the path less traveled.
It's the path in uncertain times. So during the Great Depression, a third of the people got destroyed.
Mm.
A third of the people worked their asses off and stayed the same, and a third of the people made generational wealth happen.
Mm.
So if I'm running the same sort of advertising marketing funnel,
Mm.
and um, YouTube changes the algo, screwed. Because I followed somebody else's system, they figured out the system, and when one variable changes, I don't know how to think about it and
Mm.
make a breakthrough. Whereas if we start systems thinking and principles and frameworks and blueprints,
Mm.
not step by step, if we can think in those terms to learn the form and then not need it in crisis, and the word in Mandarin is both chaos and opportunity, we can spend a lot more time in the opportunity. So in uncertain times, find the opportunity that's right for you in your
Mm.
way to serve your people. That's what's different.
That's really good. As you may already be a listener frequent on this podcast or a new person, this is how we roll. I go into the world, I pick gifted people who are doing like life altering work that need to be in the world. I bring them on the
Mm.
podcast. So there is the person, the gift. There is me, the translator. I translate their message into the practical world words. And there is you, the listener, who is the vessel. So this is how it happens. There's the expert, there's me, and then there's a carrier who is you who is listening. And so what ultimately we do in every podcast is we pause and we think, in whose hands is Brian's work going to be life altering, not helpful, not insightful. Who, if they met Brian, would alter their life in a way that we all never expected? And I want you to get this link and I want you to drop it in their private space and say, I watched this video and I thought about you. Brian is the person that you need when fear is leading the way, when fear is in the driver's seat, when fear has kept you below your potential, when the fear of the unknown has kept you from moving forward, when the fear of the unknown has kept you stuck and confused. When you know you're made for more, but fear has you by the throat, feelings of unworthiness, feelings of whatever the feelings are, but you know you're made for more, you know you have a lot of potential, but fear has brought you to the floor and has you there. Who do you know in your life? Who have you met online? Who do you know that if they listen to this conversation, they would never be the same? Because we want people to be telling their stories and quoting Brian. I listened to this one podcast on the world's best kept secret and it changed my life. I want this to be the podcast that changes their life. And Brian could go and be on social media. He could do all the marketing he can. He could do all of the things. But the best way, the most reliable way, the most effective way is if you and I scan and go, who is the one human being that we care deeply about, that we want to see move from fear to invisible? We all know one person, and our job is to share it with that person. That is the biggest thing you can do. That is the grandest gesture you can do. That is the most supportive thing you can do for the work on my hands and the work that Brian is called to do as someone that is benefiting from this podcast. That's the biggest thing that you can do to help. So pause, pick one person and share it. And if you're watching this because somebody shared the episode with you, do not break the cycle. We're doing something very powerful here. It's a string, it's going, it's scanning, and it's looking for whoever needs to hear this message. Whoever has a calling and they're stuck in the how, and the how is Brian. So do me a favor and get the string moving, because that's how you got the message. So make sure you're not breaking the blessing that is going around in the world through this podcast. Brian, we're getting to the end of it. What would you like to be your parting words for the listener?
Love conquers all. And fear is a gift. Misunderstood. Overestimated. Fear is overestimated, and I underestimated myself in this thing for far too long. And it's not okay. You can't put this genie back in the bottle. You heard the show. Hopefully it triggered you. And there's some scary stuff to dig into, and there's such treasure. Like, I'm just inviting you right now, the thing that triggered you most on what we talked about today, breathe into it. What is it showing you? There's treasure there. And if somebody hasn't told you this in a while, you're the treasure. It's already you.
Brian, it's been a pleasure. It's been a blessing. It's been an honor to have you on the show. Thank you so much for sharing your gift with the world. I am so honored that you made it to the show.
There's no gift without listeners. So thank you for the space to share my story.
And to you, my most precious listener, I can't tell you how much I really appreciate and adore you for showing up to these interviews. My interviews are not the shortest. I don't even care how long they get. I could go 2 hours, 3 hours. That's fine. Every interview goes as long as it needs to be for the message to come out. And so for you who's been sitting through these interviews and taking notes and sharing them, I don't know what to say. Otherwise, I don't know. I don't have any words to say to you. But I would love to imagine myself giving you your flowers and saying you deserve all of the celebration and love and everything that I have. I could never share my gift if you didn't exist to receive it. And so my gift exists because it's a cry. Brian's gift exists because somebody's crying for the help. And you exist, on the other hand, because this message has to be shared. There couldn't be this without you. So know that you're a powerful part of this equation. And I am trusting that together we will build this platform. As always, whatever platform you are, what does it allow you to do? Grab your app. Is it share? Is it subscribe? Is it follow? Is it review? Is it comment? Whatever the platform allows you to do, that is what is going to help people on the same frequency know that there is something here for them. That is how we tell the world that there is people here like you who needs to, I don't know, who is inviting you to something. That is how we call people to the party, by you participating, by you doing what is in your power to do. So I'm trusting that you'll do that, and I am celebrating you right now. Look forward to yet another episode. Thank you for today. Have a beautiful day or night, wherever in the world you are. That is it, my friend. To listen to more exclusive interviews like this one, simply go to the World's Best Kept Secret podcast.com and select interviews based on preferred topic.